over here!
So I just got done watching the new Mortal Kombat movie from Warner Brothers for the second time, and I can honestly say that I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. A lot of the action is fairly well done, a lot of the characters are fairly well characterized, and overall I think the movie ended up being a lot better than I thought it would be, just because I didn't really expect much of it to begin with. To put it simply, I don't really go into most video game movies expecting to be amazed or expecting to have any sort of good time with it. Detective Pikachu was a pretty good movie that I didn't really have much faith in, but I ended up enjoying. Same with Sonic the Hedgehog and even Rampage to an extent. But Mortal Kombat's history in film has always kind of been murky at best. So this one I think I was more expecting it to be bad, and I'm actually kind of happy to say that it's not. To me, it doesn't top the original 1995 movie, but that film had so much camp and everything like that that it really is hard to top it. This one does feel like a good movie, and I feel like it's one that I'll return to again, but I'll get more into that in a sec. Ultimately, the story is what you would expect for a Mortal Kombat movie, especially the first one in what is proposed to be a trilogy. Characters coming together to eventually fight the denizens of Outworld because they're about to win their 10th Mortal Kombat tournament and thus take control over Earthrealm. You have characters like Sonya Blade, Jax, Kung Lao, Liu Kang, all coming together and fighting against Outworld. But there's a couple surprises with this film that I don't really think I was expecting going in. First and foremost, Kano is on the side of good for a good majority of the film. It's no surprise that he becomes evil by the end. I mean, that's basically Kano. But while he's hanging out with the good guys, he's basically their punching bag, while also being the main source of a lot of the film's jokes. Honestly, Josh Lawson does such a great job playing him that I really kind of want to just see more over-the-top Australian Kano. As far as new characters are concerned, there's really only the one, and that's Lewis Tan's character Cole Young, who is okay. I mean, this is sort of like his establishing picture. Doesn't really have much of a presence yet, but for what he does, it's pretty good. I do have one or two problems with him, but I'll save that for more of the spoilery side of this video. As far as everyone else is concerned, they do a good job. I really enjoyed Max Hung, Ludi Lin, Hiroyuki Sanada, Mikad Brooks, and Joe Taslim, all of them doing a fantastic job portraying their respective roles. In terms of plot, the film is basically what you might expect for a pre-tournament arc sort of thing. This film does a weird thing in that the powers that each of them have are not necessarily innate abilities within them, but instead these powers are special arcane magics that only specially chosen individuals can possess. An interesting idea. The film does an okay job with it, but I'm just kind of curious to see how it'll work with it going forward. But the big question is, how are the fights? How is the combat, the action, the thing that you would expect from a Mortal Kombat movie? Honestly, I was mostly impressed. The choreography was pretty well done. The matchups for fights was fairly understandable for the story. You got a lot of shots of classic moves from the games, and even a few fatalities thrown in for good measure. Honestly, if the brightness were turned up a little bit and you got longer shots of them just fighting, I think this would work a lot better. And I hope that it's something that the director, Simon McQuaid, takes into account when making the sequel. And yes, there will hopefully be a sequel. In fact, two. Not only are there teases at the end for what might be coming next, but Simon McQuaid himself has said, I would like to make 2 more films. This one would be basically the pre-tournament, the sequel will be the tournament itself, and then the third one would be something, just happening after the tournament. If the sequels can follow along the same trajectory, if we can get a little bit more build-up for Lewis Tan's character, Cole Young, if we can get a bit more of a bond between some of the other characters and their abilities, I honestly think the new film would do very well. Now, there are 2 kind of spoilery things I want to talk about, so if you're adverse to hearing spoilers, go ahead and skip to the time code on screen to hear kind of my final thoughts. But otherwise, stick around if you want to hear what I have to say, and here we go. So why the hell is Cole in this? Like, legitimately, I don't understand the reason for Cole's character. I understand they need, like, a surrogate character to, like, throw in They needed a main character for us to follow, but why did it have to be someone brand new when there's such a long list of characters to pull from? Like, you could do Liu Kang, you could do Johnny Cage, you could do a number of things. And sure, it might break up some of the dynamic, it might require them to do a few rewrites, like how Cole is basically the descendant of Scorpion, but it really wouldn't be that hard to rewrite this stuff to make it make more sense in that way. Honestly, considering they pulled in such deep cuts like Raiko and Natara, why not throw in like Taven? Throw in another deep cut character. Hell, I would have preferred Mocap. To me, Cole's character just isn't very well fleshed out yet. There needs to be more of who he is, what he wants, and all of that outside of just, I fight. Because in this movie, he does fight. One fight on his own to unlock his weird Black Panther Wakanda armor thing that absorbs damage and dishes it back out. And then the rest, he's just a sidekick, essentially, for most of the other fights. He doesn't really offer anything unique to the formula, and very easily could have just been replaced with another character. But speaking of things that like could come from the games, I think they really need to tone back on the lip service. I fully expected them to have the lines fatality, flawless victory, all of that sort of stuff. But the way they presented it in this film was jarring and made cool scenes that much worse as a result. And sure, you could argue that they did that in the original 1995 film, and I love it there. But the reason I love it there is A, the film is campy as all hell because it has to be a PG-13 rated film, and B, they have one character saying it, that character being Shang Tsung, and every time he says it, it's in relation to him moderating a fight. In this one, you have Liu Kang barbecuing a guy as his fatality, and then being all like, flawless victory. Like, it feels so out of place in this mostly serious-ish R-rated film. I would probably rate this film even higher if it didn't have those things, if it reserved those lines for the sequel. And considering Simon McQuaid has said that he also filmed a Toasty bit, I'm kind of glad they cut that, if it was as egregious as these things. Overall, I think the Mortal Kombat movie's fine. It's not as good as the original, but it never really was going to be in my mind, if I'm being perfectly honest. The action is decently choreographed, the actors all do a fairly good job of what they're given, and seeing a more modern version of the story is something that I'm glad I got to see. I really do hope that this does get sequels. I hope it does well enough both through HBO Max and theaters, and I highly encourage that if you're interested in seeing it, go and see it. See it safely. If you have HBO Max, or just get a trial of HBO Max to watch it, or if you really want, just go out to your theater if you're vaccinated or are properly distancing and all that. Go check out this film. It's an hour and 50 minutes, and there's certainly worse ways you could spend your time.